This is Patriots Playbook.
Is it my turn to talk now?
Here's your host of Patriots Playbook, John Rook.
Bad ass.
The legend.
Hey, welcome into the Patriots Playbook, our special dead period edition here at the end of June. How come I never know when the concert schedule is here around here? You know, it's who's playing tonight? Zach Bryan? Is that who it is tonight, I think?
Correct, Zach Bryan.
Yeah, okay, thank you. By the way, where are you, Matt?
I'm back in the radio studio.
Oh, so you're okay. Well, everybody knows this except me, of course. And I did know this, by the way. I did know that we were moving, studios around this summer because of the remodeling and everything. But I just didn't anticipate it today. I don't know why. And then when I come in, Martha, who's the security guard out at the gate here at Gillette, and I noticed on the way in, there's the signs are up there. They say, concert tonight at 7. I'm like, concert? Concert? How did I not know about a concert? And then she says, you're not going to get back there without a pass. And I'm like, really? Okay. I've been working here longer than most people have been going to the bathroom. But
and you were like, challenge accepted.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why we're a couple of minutes late actually getting on the program today. But, I understand, first and foremost, that this is the slow time of year, right? This is it. This is why it's slow. We are a month away, almost to the day, really, from 4 weeks to the day, really, from training camp opening up, for the Patriots. We'll go over the schedule again in a little bit, and I'm sure that most of you that are tuning in today have already seen the schedule and know about it. And really, today is just kind of a take stock of where we are, because I've been reading all kinds of things, and we're going to take stock of a lot of different things today. But I've been reading all kinds of things over the last, couple of weeks, really, since I guess probably since before the Brady Hall of Fame induction, which we'll also talk about a little bit. But why all of a sudden, when people like, and I just saw Mina Kimes from ESPN this week, she called the Patriots defense this year a top 5 NFL defense going into next year. Top 5. One of the 5 best defenses in the entire NFL. And yet the over-under on wins is 4.5? What? On defense alone, this team should win 5 games. I mean, that's what happened last year, basically, right? Last year, this team went 4-13 and, had, statistically a top 10 defense. And that, of course, was without Judon and without Gonzalez. And they still finished statistically as a top 10 defense and won 4 games. So a top 5 defense and Drake May and a re-signed Ramondre Stevenson and maybe, I don't know, a new weapon like Jalen Polk. I mean, and that's only worth a half a win to the odds makers? I'm like, these guys are smoking something. Now, do I think the Patriots are a playoff team? No, I don't. We will discuss that. But what I'd kind of like to do today, really, is I'd kind of like to examine, really 3 areas of I guess, what's a good way to term this? 3 areas of where this team is, just, state of the Patriots, in all honesty. We're looking at largely, I'm trying to read some notes here. I apologize. We're looking at largely one good thing about this team that you feel really positive about. And then I'm going to allow for some of the negativity to creep in today. And I want you to come up with one thing that you think is not so good. Okay, let's call it a bad thing. Let's call it is what it is. One bad thing about this team. All right? That's the other thing I want you to come up with. And then I would tell you largely where you feel like the biggest area of need is today. Not a month from now, not 5 months from now, not a month ago, but today. Today is June 26th. If you're listening to this on the podcast playback, our June show, June 26th, we won't have another program until July 24th. We're actually going to do, believe it or not, I'll mention this now, and I'll mention it again at the end of the show. We're going to do 2 shows in July. We'll do one on July 24th for the very first public day of training camp, and we're going to do another one a week after that on July 31st. So we'll have 2 July shows, and we'll definitely look at training camp. We'll update all that stuff coming in, and we'll have some fun with that coming up in the next month. But as far as today is concerned, where is the biggest area of need? Where's the biggest area of need? That's kind of what we're kind of looking at here. So Evan, is Evan going to join us today? Matt?
I'm here.
Oh, you are here. See, they don't.
How you doing?
They don't tell me these things. You're on. Oh, okay. We got you. Yeah. Are you at home today?
I am at home today. You got to enjoy these breaks while we can, right?
Well, yeah. That's why I felt badly when Matt said Evan's available. I'm like, I'd really hate to do that to Evan on a day off, but what the hell?
No.
So, what the hell? So I just so thanks, Ev. I appreciate it. And again,
Of course.
because
anytime.
of the studio surroundings here, it's, as you well know, it's a little bit different setup. So we can't really see each other like we normally have been able to see each other, but that's okay. We'll make do. All right. So I guess the first thing I wanted to start with is really the kind of the questions that I'm talking about, and the phone lines are open. I understand that they are working today, so that's good. That was also something that I was kind of indoctrinated into when I learned about the changeover of the studio and the remodel and everything. So we're in the temporary studio, which is in the TV studios down the hallway at Craft Sports Productions, in the bowels of the stadium here. But we're revamping, remodeling, redoing everything. And I walked through the old studio because Matt figured that's where I was going to be going to. And I walked in and I'm like, there's nothing in here. This is cool. So, but it looks good. Have you seen it, Ev, already, what they're doing in there? I take it you have.
He sent me a video Morel did just now, actually, of the new studio, and it looks amazing. I mean, it's going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. We're going to bring it, finally, up to par, up to date with, 21st century New England Patriot stuff without the old logos and, some of the players that were on the wall. I mean, we still had the Tom Brady fathead on the door to the studio, for God's sake, right? So, I mean, that's also collector's.
And it was crispy as it peeled
We're
off.
losing the fathead. I like the fathead.
Was it really? Was it crispy? Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I
in
liked
fact,
it.
the bottom half,
he's
the
still
legs
a goat,
stayed together.
right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. I would have taken it home and pieced it together, probably, knowing me back in the day anyway. All right, so the phone lines are open. 855-PATS-500, 855-PATS 500, toll free. I am talking basically. We're gonna keep this simple, stupid, because like I said, it's the dead period. We're not going to solve any issues today, but at the same time, I'd kind of like to go this direction. I'd like to know what you feel about the football team that you follow. What you feel about this team in particular. If you don't follow the Patriots and you're just tuning in and you're curious to wonder what the hell's going on and what are they talking about at the end of June, a month away from training camp starting, this is when everybody gets away and removes themselves from football, and here we are doing a 2-hour football show, which, okay, I understand. A lot of people want that. Some people don't. Some people need to get away from it. But we'll start with what you feel like is the biggest need. What's the biggest need of this team today? Knowing the roster that we have, there are what do we have? 80 players, or do we have? Is that the limit now?
90.
It's 90 now. That's right. Okay, it's 90. I'm caught between the 85 in college and 90 right now. As I try to get up to. I've been reading my Texas football magazine all week, Evan. So it just came in the mail this week. So I'm getting up to date on Texas and Texas A&M and Oklahoma and all these schools and teams now that in the SEC. By the way, did you just love how Texas snaked Texas A&M's head baseball coach away from them this week? Did you see that story?
I absolutely did not see that story.
You did not see that story. Texas A&M was in the final of the Men's College World Series, okay, this week against Tennessee. Tennessee won the last game. And then a reporter got dressed down by the Aggie coach. His name's Jim Schlossnagel. He got dressed down because the Aggie reporter from TexAgs.com, which is basically the school website, just said, hey, Coach, can you address the rumors, of the fact that you may be going to Texas? And he berated the reporter for asking a selfish question. 6 hours later, he was the head coach at the University of Texas, their arch rival. Now tell me that there's not something wrong with that. It just goes to show you that, everything goes. It's all a business. It's all about money. There is no loyalty anywhere. And I'm a Longhorn. And so I could care less about the Aggies. But at the same time, I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? So at any rate, that's what happened this week of note anyway. And though college baseball has absolutely zero to do with what we're talking about today. All right, so Ev, what do you feel like today, a month out from training camp, is the biggest need, month away from training camp? What will be, the one thing that just glares at Gerard Mayo and the coaching staff as to we need to address this, and we need to address this pretty quickly once we get underway in July?
Well, I would love to say that they could address it, but I'm not sure if these options that are left on the market or in the trade market potentially down the road are really going to upgrade the offensive tackle situation. But that's got to be the biggest need right now on the board for the Patriots. At receiver, you can make the argument still that they don't have that number one guy, that coverage dictating receiver, but they do have some young players and Pop Douglas and Jalen Polk and Javon Baker that you would like to see them play and see what they can bring to the table before you completely write it off as a bad receiver room. Mm-hmm. The offensive line in the other, on the other side of things, though, there's no debating on whether or not the Patriots have a below average offensive line or not now. They definitely do. And I plugged this yesterday, I believe, on our shows, but Brandon Thorne, who's an O-line expert, he does a lot of offensive line trenches, if you will, type of reporting. And he released his annual rankings earlier this week of all the 32 units, the 5-man units across the NFL. He has the Patriots at 31 out of 32 teams along the offensive line.
That's crazy. I mean, I realize, I understand, and I agree with you right now. Offensive line to me is the glaring need on this team. There are a lot of things that are of need. I know the wide receiving core is one of them, but to me, if you can't protect Jacoby or Drake or whoever ends up getting the start, you're not gonna be able to score, and there's where I think a lot of people are siding with those that feel like the Patriots are 31 or 30 or out of 32 teams going in, and forget just offensive line. I'm talking about the team as a whole, because they don't think they'll be able to get past 4.5 wins.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to the 4.5 win total, I understand where you're coming from completely with the defense should be able to keep them in games. And I said this last week that I feel the same way. And you have to feel to an extent that if you can get any semblance of offense that they didn't get over the last year and a half, 2 years, that they should be able to be at least competitive. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to make the playoffs or be a Super Bowl contender, but you could be looking at a team that hits the over, right, of 4.5 wins if they can score at any sort of consistent rate. But with that being said, it feels to me like Vegas and these win total projections that we see are building in a lot of post-Belichick trauma to the Patriots, just meaning that they don't know what the coaching is going to be like in New England anymore. And they don't have any confidence yet in Gerard Mayo and this new coaching staff that they are going to be a well-coached team. And you look at the defense side of the ball, they got talent at all three levels. They are a top 5 defense on paper in terms of just pure roster talent. But are they going to have a slip up in coaching? Are they going to have the same level of detail, the same game plan style that they had under Bill Belichick? Is that going to take a big step back? And if it does, then the defense as a whole, even though it looks great on paper talent-wise, might not be as dominant as it needs to be for them to go over.
Sure. Yeah, I kind of agree with all of that. But it's just so early in the stage. I think we all have our ideas of what it is that this team needs and where this team is lacking, the deficiencies, if you will. Where this team currently stands. There are a lot of things that I'm very excited about and anxious to see. I do want to, and the offensive line being one of those. And some of the receivers, and does Ramondre, now that he's got the new contract in hand, by the way, his quote this week was, what is he going to do with the money? And he said he was going to go out and try 4-ply toilet paper. Is that right? He really said that, huh?
Did he say that?
I think
didn't
he did.
see that.
I believe that he did, because I think I saw that re-quoted a couple of places, and I'm like, this guy has got it. He knows. He just knows. He's already playing to the audience, and I love that. And sometimes, you play to the audience because you get a natural enthusiasm about, your job, and you like to have fun, and you poke a little fun, and you like to show a little personality. And sometimes you also like to deflect attention away from a real trouble spot. I don't know if Ramondre is quite that savvy to do that, but at the same time, I actually think that the Patriots are in decent shape. I don't really have too much issue with the fact that they've got this guaranteed money. I think I read where they're 7th in the NFL in terms of guaranteed money to the running back position. I don't really have an issue with that because you got to have something on offense, and if you have an unproven quarterback, or you don't really have what you would consider a top 10 or 15 quarterback, whether it's Drake or whether it's Jacoby or whether it's whoever, then you got to have something you can rely upon, and I think we all understand that the running game has long been a staple of what the Patriots have done on offense, even during the days of TB12. Hey, you got to have the running game to be able to set up play action, everything that the Patriots did so well over the number of years. So I find that my thoughts here are a little guarded, only because there's still uncertainty. I do have tremendous questions with the line right now. I think that's the biggest question mark. So the question 2 to follow up with that, right now, what's the one bad thing you can generally say about the Patriots coming in as we do this 3 things thing here? We know that, are you siding then with the offensive line, or are you going with the receivers and the most immediate need right now?
Yeah, I'm going offensive line. I just feel like their receivers. Look, the bottom line is that the Patriots season is going to be determined based on whether or not they can score points. Are they going to be able to score enough to win games consistently? And with the offensive line, that's to me is the foundation of your team offensively. That's what your floor is as an offense. Yep. Is your offensive line. Yep. And then I would also say your quarterback play. That's really your floor. Like receiver and all the shiny toys on the outside, we love talking about it. People love hearing about it. The fantasy people love it. But at the end of the day, those are luxuries in the NFL. And if you don't build from the inside out, then you're going to have a tough time as a team most of the time, unless you have really special receivers and special quarterback like they do, let's say, in Cincinnati, for example, where they can get away with having a little bit lesser than offensive line. But for the Patriots, you mentioned that they're going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to sync things up off the run game with play action and moving pockets and things like that. And all of that goes as the offensive line goes. So that to me is still the biggest weakness. And I would just say in general, Chuks Okorafor at left tackle is probably the biggest question mark on this team right now. I feel like the offensive line could probably find some semblance of respectable play on the interior. City So, David Andrews, maybe it's Mike Onwenu at right guard sliding back inside. That should be a pretty solid interior, but the tackle spots on both sides are huge question marks. And is a guy like Okorafor, who was a career right tackle in Pittsburgh, then fell out of favor with the Steelers, was just a so-so right tackle to begin with, and now is being asked to play on the blind side and flip sides at this point of his career. That is going to determine a lot about their season.
Okay. So if that's, gone from need to bad, what do you feel like is a good thing right now about this team going into training camp? Does one exist?
Well, I definitely think there's a good things going on the defensive side of the football. I agree with Mina Kimes, and not because I'm being a homer. I really look at their defense, and it's hard to not like what you see on paper. They have legitimate blue chip talents: Matthew Judon, Christian Barmore, Christian Gonzalez. Like those guys are 3 guys at really different positions and different point of attacks of the defense that are really a lunch pail, kind of hallmark type guys, pillar type guys. And then they also still have the Belichick, do your job guys, right? The Jawan Bentleys, the Jelani Tavais, the Jabril Pepperses of the world. So there's a lot of guys in there that still exist on this team that have that foundational floor built in of these are just good, solid football players. Are they game changers? Not necessarily, but they're good, solid football players. So they have those types of guys. They have the high-end guys. And they have the swing guys that I would call them swing guys, like Kyle Duggar, Keon White. If those players have strong seasons, now we're really talking about a 3-level defense that's got a ton of talent and playmaking ability on it. Okay.
So then are you kind of like me in wondering what people are looking at, the so-called prognosticators at the over-under being 4.5 for the Patriots right about now? I mean, is there enough to move the needle on the defensive side of the ball for the Patriots?
Yeah, I understand where they're coming from. I think there are a couple of things involved here. One, I mentioned the coaching. We're still not 100% sure how that's going to shake out.
Yep.
Offensive side of the ball, Alex Van Pelt's never called plays before. It's the first time that he's going to be doing that for an extended period of time. He's called plays for individual games here and there throughout his tenure, but he's never called plays at a high level before for an entire season. You throw that in there. You throw in the fact that on the defensive side of the ball, they lose both Belichicks. They lose Bill and they lose Steve. So their defensive play caller was Steve Belichick over the last couple of years. He's not here anymore. So you really just don't know what you're going to get on the coaching side of things. And then you obviously don't know what you're going to get offensively in terms of scoring points. So I get where they're coming from, but I also think it's not hard to talk yourself into them being an over team, being a 6 or 7 win team, maybe even an 8-win team. Just the last thing I'll throw some water on the fire with here really quickly. The schedule. The schedule is extremely difficult. Aaron Rodgers is back in New York with the Jets and will probably be healthy this time around. So you have a very difficult division. You play a lot of really good teams on your schedule with a lot of really high-powered offenses and good quarterback play. So if this schedule was truly a quote-unquote last-place schedule, then I might feel a little bit differently. But based off of some of the projections and some of the analytics and things like that, they have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL next year, coming off a 4-win season. So that right there is probably the combination of things that leads to the 4.5 win totals.
Sure. And it's understood. I'm going to choose, at least right now, to think, though, that this defense is going to be, as long as it stays healthy, and I think we all have to realize that the X factor here is health. And if you lose, similarly, like you lost last year when Judon went down, when Gonzalez went down, then I think the Patriots will struggle to get to that level at 4.5 wins. I'm also a very big proponent that once camp gets started here, and if we see Drake May assert himself and look like he is really going to be the better option of the options that they have at quarterback, I think the Patriots need to play him, because I just don't think there's any I don't think there's any lesson like on-the-job learning. And yeah, I know that this is a violent sport, but this is what you pay for. This is what you get into when you're in this kind of a situation. I mean, hey, let's face it. Now's the time. I'm not sure that this is a team that will be able to get out of the top 10 in terms of the draft for next year, kind of like this last year's team was. I'm not sure it's as bad as being a number 1 draft pick type of team, which I've already seen some people call for, even before we get to training camp this year. But I want to see this team try to put its best foot forward. And if the young guys are the guys deserving to play, they need to play. Agree or disagree with that?
I agree with that. I mean, I feel like the conversation around Drake May is quickly changing to, is the offensive line, is the whole infrastructure of the offense going to be ready for him come week 1? Not, is he going to be ready to play in an NFL game come week 1? And that's a fair point. We just went over all the concerns that we have with the offensive line and the offensive tackle position. And you have a young quarterback who's raw, that hasn't played a ton of football in his life, with footwork and sort of mechanical things that they're trying to work out with him. Do you want to throw that player behind a bad offensive line right out of the gate? Yep. It's a fair point. And I feel like a lot of people fall on the side of, let's give it a month, let's give it 6 weeks. Let's see what this offense around him is going to look like. If the offensive line ends up not being a major concern or is better than we think it is, then we feel comfortable putting Drake May in there. But until we see it come together a little bit, then it's a risk to throw him out there. I hear the side of it, and I'm not totally against that side of it. But I think for me, the other angle that I would look at it is that the quarterback can really break through the ceiling that we're talking about with this teams in terms of wins and losses. If Drake May is as good as I think he might be, then it changes everything about the outlook of the team. It changes how everybody looks around him. It's going to change all of the elements of the team that we saw, for example, down in Houston with CJ Stroud. All of a sudden, they put CJ Stroud in that offense, and they're a playoff team, just like that, right? and I know that that's putting a lot on Drake May and putting a high expectation on him. But if you're in training camp in the preseason and he's looking like that, and you think you have something on that Stroud-like level, then I don't know how you keep that player on the bench for too long, because then you're just doing everybody a disservice. You're doing him a disservice. You're doing the other 52 guys a disservice. You're doing the coaching staff a disservice by not playing the best player.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with it. I can hear everybody's concerns about throwing him behind a bad offensive line. We saw the impact that had on Mac Jones, but I do think we're talking about a player that has a talent level that's far superior and a skill set from a physical standpoint that's far superior than a quarterback like Mac Jones. So it's a tough one, but I'm willing to let it see what it looks like in camp, in the preseason, things like that. And I would put him out there as soon as he's ready. But let's see what it looks like first.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, you do have to see what it looks like, and you have to make sure that he's equipped with what you need him to be equipped with in order to push forward. I totally understand all that, but man, if the guy's got talent and he's showing the talent and he's making the throws you need him to make, and he's controlling things, he's running the offense, he's giving the guys confidence. He doesn't seem, jaded by anything that's going on around him, and you really wouldn't expect it. You expect a rookie, I think, at this stage of the game to have all kinds of confidence, right? But yeah, throw him out there and let's see what he's got. There are two sides of that story, and we'll examine that, of course, as everything gets underway, because that's where a lot of the scrutiny will be when we get started in another month. All right, so Evan has kind of shared some of his three things on top of, where the Patriots stand right at this moment today, and I'm hoping that some of you will also feel like doing the same. So, again, 855-PATS 500, the toll-free number. You can always send us an email, webradio@patriots.com. Is the best way to get through. You can also hit me up on X @JRBroadcaster, or you can hit my Facebook page, John.Rook, and leave a post there, and we can discuss that based on the things that we're talking about. Because frankly, look, I realize that the NFL has become it's very much a year-round endeavor. I am marveled. In April at the draft, and 700,000 people in the streets of Detroit, and I'm just listen, kudos to the NFL for doing what they've done marketing wise, but at the same time, I think it does us good to take a little bit of a step back. So this month is really kind of a step back, because I think you need to see what you have. I also want to appreciate what we've had, which is why I also want to talk a little bit about, Tom Brady's induction ceremony coming up, because even though I know that's in the past, in fact, I'll kind of let you in on something here, Ev. Miss Robin was telling me this morning, she said, so are you excited about doing the show today? And I'm like, this is the dead period show, and so you're trying to manufacture something because, frankly, we want to do a show, and we want to kind of prime, hit the primer for training camp in another month, and the training camp dates came out this week and all that kind of stuff. And then before I could finish, she goes, well, don't talk about the Brady thing, because that's over. It's in the past. I only want to know about this team today, going forward. How much are you on the side of that?
Well, I hate to throw my wonderful mother under the bus, but I'll do it because, why not? So I was at Father's Day with my family a few weeks ago, and my mother asked me how I felt about the Brady thing, and I was like, oh, it was great. It was awesome. I no complaints whatsoever. And she was like, don't you think it was like a little weird that they threw a party for a guy that finished his career with a different team, and like he left them, like that sort of thing. And I just my jaw was just on the floor. I was like, wait, we're getting worked up about celebrating Tom Brady in Foxborough. I couldn't believe it. And she was like, well, he left them. I was like, oh, okay.
And she has a point. Your mom has a point.
Yeah.
Robin has a point. They all have a point. I get that. But what we experienced here over, that 20 years is extraordinary, unlikely to really ever be experienced maybe ever again. Certainly not in our lifetimes. And I say what you want about, the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. He's got a long way to go. And I'm not saying he can't get there, but he's got a long way to go to perform at a high level to even match Brady's numbers.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll poke fun at my mother all day long, but there was absolutely no question in my mind that we should have done something like this for Tom Brady.
Yeah,
I mean, he
yeah, of
is
course.
the greatest quarterback of all time. He's our quarterback. He's still a Patriots quarterback in my mind. And there's absolutely no debating whether or not he deserves all the accolades and honors that are coming his way. With that being said, the night itself, what I felt so, I guess, pleased with the night is that it almost turned into like a celebration of the dynasty.
Yeah.
In a 20-year run.
Well, it did. And it should have. It should have, because we were all disappointed by the stupid Apple TV series. That turned out to be almost a hit job on Coach Belichick, with all due respect. And of course the roast was, it was funny as hell, but it was disgusting. So, I'm just like, we deserve to have that moment to celebrate. And that's what I really thought the Brady Hall of Fame ceremony was about.
Yeah, it was great. It was almost like Brady was like the figurehead of representing the 20-year run, which allowed us to celebrate all of the players that were able to attend.
Yes.
You had from the beginning, like the OGs, like, Willie McGinnis and, those types of guys that were there, Ty Law. And then you had the next sort of wave, Randy Moss, Wes Welker, then the Gronk, Edelman Patriots alongside Brady, Devin McCourty, of course. And then you get to Bill. So it was like this whole celebration of the 20 years through the prism of Tom Brady being obviously the guy at the top and the figurehead of it all. And that was one of the most cathartic fan events I have ever been to. That everybody got their applause, everybody got their standing O, everybody got a goodbye, everybody got a thank you, right? That deserved it, that more than deserved it, from Bill to Randy Moss to Gronk.
I think we lost him on the WebEx. Did he go away?
Oh, he's still there talking.
Oh, he is? Okay. I lost him in my hair then.
We lost you, Evan.
Okay, so we lost Evan. My apologies for that. We'll try to get him back on if we can. In the meantime, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots, Toyota. Let's go places. All right, so as we try to recoup Evan here in a little bit and get his thoughts. I got to tell you one little story, then we're going to get to the phones.
You got me now, John?
Yeah, I got you back. Thank you.
Thank
you.
I don't know what happened.
No. Well, hey,
Technology.
it's technology. Well, when you got pieces of studio scattered about Gillette Stadium, this is bound to happen from time to time, right?
Absolutely.
So,
but it's worth it. It's gonna be worth it. I've seen the pictures and the videos.
It's supposed to be good.
Worth it.
Yes. It's supposed to be good. We're very happy that this is taking place. All right, I got to tell you a little story because behind the scenes at the Brady affair on June the 12th, l'affaire TB12. My stage, or I was stage left, the blackened out part of the stage behind the curtain, if you recall, if you're looking at it, stage head on and the banners and everything in the background. I'm off to the left where the black area was, and that was all curtained off because that's where a lot of the players and the celebrities were coming up from the rear, coming up from the Optum Club, coming up the back steps, and then heading out to the stage. And so I had a little sound booth that's set up right there on the side of the stage, and that's where my vantage point was. And so I literally saw everything, everybody there, and it was always cool. The two significant moments that I saw, that happened during that, 3-hour show. Number one was I'm getting ready to start a read, and I got bumped from behind my chair. I get the bump, and it was, I don't think it was done on purpose, but I got a bump. It looked like somebody was going to just brush me by trying to squeeze by. And so I turned around to see who it was. It was Kenny Chesney giving Peyton Manning a hug. So I excused that, okay? I didn't say, "Yo, man, what the? Hey, Kenny,
that's big of you. That's big of you.
Hey, those guys can, have me for lunch if they, want. And then the second one is that, I think it was God, right after that, I had just finished a read, and I come around, and these big arms come around me and just envelop me. And I get a squeeze, and oh crap, what have I done? That's the first thing. I turn around, it's Ty Law, and I'm like, dude, hey, it's great to see you, and because I was with the team when Ty got drafted. And actually, I was with the team when well before Ty got drafted. But he was one of the first interviews I think that I think we ever did really here on Patriots.com radio. That when we actually had the ability to talk to the players and so I look. Ty's a great guy. I know you know him at least a little bit, and he is a stand-up individual. He was a great player. He's deserved everything that has come his way. And, of course, he lives and works and has a business in southern New England and Rhode Island specifically. And I got to tell you, he doesn't shy away from anybody or anything. As he's gotten older, he's gotten nicer. And maybe it's because, I don't know, maybe it's these guys, get removed from it a little bit. They look back on it and they learn to appreciate it a little bit more. Do you find that is the case with some of the guys that have, been through it a little bit, especially those that were here before TB12 even got started in 2000?
Absolutely. And I feel like the best part to me about Ty Law, for the little bit of time that I've gotten to spend with him, is that the swagger and the confidence that he played with that's just Ty Law. Like even still, he's still one of those guys that you ask him like, could you go out there tomorrow and cover Justin Jefferson? And he'd probably be like, hell yeah, I can. He does not lack confidence. And you love to see that in that position in particular. That's obviously key at cornerback. And I think a lot of these guys were blown away by just the emotions of the night and how it kind of overtook a lot of them. And I don't think a lot of them were expecting it. I mean, certainly Randy Moss was not expecting that kind of
to me was
ovation.
that was one of the most moving moments, if there were such things as moving moments. But to see Randy really soak that in and appreciate it and then cry real tears, that was like, oh my God, that was a shocker.
Absolutely.
And Tom got choked up a couple of times too, which is great. I almost expected that.
Dozen.
But to see Moss, react to the crowd's, adoration of him was, that was a seminal moment. And then, of course, the standing ovation, 6-7 minutes, however long it was for Bill Belichick, was remarkable and deserved as well. Two significant moments, I think, during the whole thing that almost just seemed to sweep all the bad stuff under the rug, at least for a moment, and make us all feel a little bit better about, the last, 20, 22 years since everything got started and the way that everything kind of, blew up at the end. And now it's kind of like, okay, we can look back on it fondly. In other words, we took care of the bad stuff. It's like we took our medicine, now we've had our medicine, and now we're not sick anymore. I was really left with that kind of a feeling after it was over.
Yeah, I used the word cathartic earlier, and
cathartic
I feel
is a
like
good word.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It was a closing of the chapter, closing of the book, if you will. And I hope, I don't think it's going to bury all the hatchets that possibly exist at One Patriot Place right now, between a couple of the more important figures, if you can kind of get what I'm insinuating at. But I feel like Brady and Mr. Kraft, Bill and Brady, those relationships seem like they're as good as ever or fine, to kind of go into this next chapter of both of their careers and be at all these induction ceremonies and be at all these important milestone things that they're going to have post-career. Like, I have no doubt in my mind, not that I did doubt it to begin with, but I have no doubt in my mind that they're all going to be in Canton for each other and all that kind of stuff, right? So we're at that point now, and hopefully, we've kicked around some ideas about what they'll do for Belichick eventually when he decides to officially retire from coaching and call it a career. I don't know exactly what it will be. I don't think it will be exactly the same as what they did for Brady, but I assure you that they will do something pretty remarkable, hopefully for Bill as well. So, in that respect, we're on to a different chapter of all of this, I hope.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be, an entire stadium worth of celebration, but I think two things. Number one, as I've been privileged to serve on the Patriots, Hall of Fame committee for the last several years, you wave the waiting period, for Coach Belichick, just like you waived it for TB12, number one. And number two, you have to do something for him that I think sort of typifies the kind of person he's been to all of us. I mean, I don't know if you do it exactly the same. We tend to have, there were certainly some elements for those that have been and seen a lot of the other Hall of Fame inductions over the years, at Patriot Places. We've done them outside the stadium largely because there was an outside crowd of 7,000 or 8,000 people or whatever there, which has always been good. You do the interviews and you do the highlight reels, and then everybody does a little speech, and then you goof on them a little bit, and and then you welcome on all of the other Hall of Famers. And I think it's a really cool bit of pomp and circumstance to help celebrate what this franchise has built for itself and has built for New England really over the course of the last quarter century or so, and even beyond that, since it was born as the Boston Patriots back in 1960. But you're right. I don't think it can be exactly the same as Tom Brady. So I think this will be a challenge. And I mentioned this to the entertainment people, everybody that works at KS&E, and Abby Thielen and those that put on the game entertainment stuff. That the one thing that because I sat right next to Abby during the whole show, is she's directing this like an orchestra maestro. I would tell you that we put on shows here in New England every bit as good as we see on TV done by the Emmys or the Academy Awards. We do. We put on a show. We know how to do it because we know how to speak to the fans. We know what the fans want. We know what the fans need to hear, what the fans want to embrace. And so we give them embraceable moments, which is hugely important. This is why the Patriots are as successful as they have been, even when we've had some down seasons over the last 4 or 5 years, Evan, because the Patriots know how to read the marketplace. They know who their audience is. It's so important in this day and age of a million things here and a million things there, and this many channels and this many teams and this much you can watch and this much you can listen to. It's a menagerie, and the Patriots know still what their fans want. This will be a challenge to be able to do this for Bill Belichick when that time comes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest challenge is just that it probably shouldn't be exactly like it was for Tom. It's going to have to be something a little bit different. And I also would say that it might be a challenge, and this isn't a knock or a shot at Coach Belichick, but it might be a challenge to get him to want 60,000 people there to celebrate him. That's just not necessarily what we have known about his personality. I could see him wanting it to be something that's a little bit more intimate and a little bit less of a spectacle his celebration. But at the same time, and there's no disrespect to the people, that do have it in the plaza. The plaza is not good enough for Bill Belichick, right? Like it's got to be something in between 65,000 people in Gillette Stadium, a sold out event, and the plaza. There's got to be a middle ground there that they find, and I'm fascinated to see how they go about it, because it is a difficult. It's going to be like splitting an atom a little bit, right? It's going to be hard to figure out exactly the best way to do it. And I'm looking forward to being there, hopefully, right?
Yeah,
and seeing what it's like.
We all are. We don't know how long, Bill's going to go with this thing, but at the same time, we just want to be involved in it in some form or fashion. All right, Evan, you've been so kind to do this on a day off in a dead period when you need to get away from it at all. I'll let you go a few minutes early here, but before you go, I need you to tell me what you're looking forward to the most about camp beginning. The first live camp for the fans is July 24th. That was announced earlier this week here on Patriots.com. And so if you haven't seen that, I'll go through the schedule in just a little bit. But it is here on the website, so you can find that. July 24th is the first live camp. There are, I believe, 13 different live camp sessions for fans to be able to come out to at no cost to see this team practice, work out, get to know the players, obviously a lot of new ones. There will be a joint practice session held right before the end of camp with the Philadelphia Eagles before taking on the Eagles. What are you looking forward to the absolute most, knowing that this whole organization really is it's in a state of flux. It could be on the precipice of falling flat, or it could be on the precipice of building back up to the top. Which way does it go in your mind?
Yeah, I feel like the easy answer here is just to say Drake May, but that's the short answer is what I'm looking forward to most. But just to expand on that a little bit, I feel like it's also just Drake May and these two receivers that they drafted as well. If they can get that to be their nucleus offensively moving forward, where Drake May, Jalen Polk, and Javon Baker all show flashes, all show the potential that we're looking for, and become a trio that they can build with moving forward, then things are going to start to look a lot more positive here in the coming months. It could obviously go the other way, and all three of them might not be able to play, and we could be in for a world of hurt. But I look at so many of the other examples across the league of young receivers, young quarterback, all kind of hitting their stride together. And obviously with the Green Bay Packers connection with Elliott Wolf, that seems to be what they're going for. Green Bay, they have Christian Watson, they have Jaden Reed, they have Romeo Doubs, and then they obviously have Jordan Love at quarterback. If the Patriots can build something similar here, then they might get back to respectability a lot faster than some people think. So I'm looking forward to those three guys working together. They put in a lot of time after practice when we were out there in the spring, doing throwing sessions afterwards, getting in some extra work. It was always the three of them. They're like the three amigos. They were together all the time, and hopefully that's the future of the Patriots right there. Hopefully that's Brady, Gronk, and Edelman in 10 years. When we look back,
I'm looking forward to that myself. The promise of the future is staring us right in the face right now. That's what we believe it to be. This is, it's just the way that professional sports is played in this country. You got to get bad before you can get good. It's happened throughout eternity since professional sports it got started in the early 20th century. You can make a case they started in the 19th century, but I mean, that's so far all over. It's nowhere near modern times. It's the 20th century, and so for the last 100 to 120 years since baseball began rolling, and then football came along in the 1920s, and and then basketball followed the 1940s, and hockey in the 1940s, and whatever. You got to get bad before you can get good. It's the way the system was developed, and so we've become accustomed to trying to buck the trend, but it just doesn't happen. And the Patriots were able to extend that winning streak for longer than any other franchise and any other sport has been able to do it. And that's the one thing that I think that Patriot fans will be able to bank on for a long time, is that they've had the longest run of success of any team, really. Yankee fans might disagree with 26, 27 World Championships, but I digress on that one. Over an extended period of time, it's hard to argue that. But over a 20-year period, you really can't argue what the Patriots are doing. And you feel like now that you've paid your price for a few years, that now the road back should start. I want to see glimpses. I want to see signs. I want to feel a spark. I want to, get that excitement just a little bit. I don't need to have it with an unexpected win necessarily, or even a team that makes the playoffs this year, although that would be remarkable. And it would be exciting, but I don't need that to be able to see something I can kind of hang my head on for the next few years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I feel like that's where we're all at. And we did see some of those glimpses in the spring, but granted, that's non-padded practices and it's not the real thing. We're not playing live football yet. So once the pads come on and they get into those joint practices with Philly, or they get into the preseason games, you start to see some of those flashes in actual game type settings. That's when you can start to really get excited. They all looked the part in the spring, running around in shorts and a t-shirt, and Drake May did some impressive things, and Polk started to come on, and Baker started off pretty hot until he got hobbled with some sort of injury. So hopefully that's behind him once camp rolls around. But they showed some of those moments. Okay, that's why he was drafted 3rd overall, that sort of stuff in the spring, and you hope that it translates once the pads come on.
Absolutely. When's the next Catch 22?
we'll be on Tuesday next week because of the 4th, and we'll have PU tomorrow as always. So we'll be around, even though it's the dead period, which we all savor a little bit. But,
Yeah,
we'll still be around.
good. All right, get out and play some golf or do something. Summary.
Will do.
Thanks for today. I appreciate you.
Anytime. See you next month.
The one and only Evan Lazar. Mike Reiss, the great Mike Reiss from ESPN, is going to join us here in 5 minutes, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. It's Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. Let's get to the phones. And thanks for hanging on. Sean in Vancouver, I'll let you lead it off today. Welcome back into the playbook, Sean.
Thanks, John. Good to speak with you again.
Always good to have you, my friend.
Thanks. I totally agree with Evan in regards to the biggest challenge on this team is that left tackle. We have no idea what that player will look like, and if he can even hold some type of playable or some type of acceptable level of offensive tackle that's going to be needed for Drake May to.
It's a concern.
Well,
I admit it's a real concern. The blind side has to be protected, and I hope that they actually look at a couple of different options. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them, look for a training camp pickup if they need to, at least to bolster depth, if not to find a starter. Finding a starter would probably tell you that you're really in bad shape at this late stage of the game. But certainly for depth purposes, right. And maybe you run 2 or 3 guys in there and let somebody play their way into the position. Because frankly, I think that's kind of where they are right now.
Yeah, and the bad thing is, I really don't see the Patriots winning more than 7 games at most. Like they're going to lose at least 10 games.
I'm kind of there with you on that one, Sean. I'll be honest. When I was considering the whole over under 4.5 thing, and I'm thinking, God, the way the defense is, if they stay healthy, I don't see them winning just only 4 games. I see them going 5+. In fact, I see them going up to 7. And if they actually get to 7 and 10, dude, mid-December they're still going to be in the playoff chase.
Yeah, and I don't even need to see them in the playoffs. That's not where my expectations are. And to tell you the truth, I'm actually more excited about this team than I was 20 years ago when I knew they were going to win the Super Bowl before the season started.
All right, you're going to have a hard time selling me on this one. Tell me why.
I got to explain to it.
There's
a bit of an explanation here. Now,
okay.
I'm a lifelong Patriots fan. That's my main team in all of sports. I grew up in Montreal. So I grew up, I'm, going to be 58 in November. So I grew up where the heyday of the Canadians. So that team was killing it in the NHL, and I would, be a fan when they won and was happy about it. But it wasn't really my life. The Patriots are who I'm about. And back in the 80s when the Jets and Bills were on WPTZ in Plattsburgh, I would travel to the top of Mount Royal to listen to the radio so I could hear the Patriots broadcast it in Vermont, right? So
yeah.
I'm
laughing because I remember doing that very well, and I'd have to stand up. My grandfather would get upset when, the games would fizzle in and out, and so I'd have to stand up and I'd have to hold the antenna, the bunny ears together with the pieces of tinfoil on the top of them, and I'd have to hold it a certain way, and I'd have to stand there for 30 minutes. So
there you go. Yeah. It's a different world, but here we are, it's like I'm an actor, and it doesn't say much for my career, but my greatest achievement in my acting career was about 22 years ago when I did a scene with Angelina Jolie for Life or something like it. It was an amazing experience and something that I'm going to hold on to. But my best experience overall in my life was February 3rd, 2002, around the same time, when I watched the Patriots win the Super Bowl for the first time. It was amazing, and they actually won over the whole bar of fans who were like either maybe rooting for the Rams or not rooting for anybody. But that was such an incredible experience, and it was made even more incredible for me because I was a true Patriots fan who suffered many years of, going through Lisa Olson and all that terrible times to get to that point, right? And this is where I'm excited for true Patriots fan, because if you're listening to this right now, you're a true Patriots fan. I mean, this is a dead season.
No question.
Team
No question.
Predicted to be the worst, right? So, you love the Patriots, and I don't care if you got here because of Gronk or Brady or the 6 Super Bowls. You're here, and now you're invested, and you're going to be really excited when they finally win again. So you're here for the beginning. This is the beginning of that ride.
Well, you're just mentally disturbed like me and the rest of us around here. So, but that's okay, because we're all on the same boat, So,
so that's it. So this is why I'm so excited, because we're going to see the beginning of this new team being put together. That
right.
The Patriots' new plan. It's not the same as what we have with the previous regime. Now it's about investing in the core. Giving contracts to Stevenson and Duggar and all Onwenu and all these other players,
right,
to build up what we're going to see. And I want to see that happen. I want to see Drake May be our leader, our franchise quarterback, and I want to see that build to 2029
100%.
when they finally win a Super Bowl.
100%. All right, hang on just a second, Sean, because you've been kind enough to hang on. Eldred's on the line too. I want you guys to listen, because Mike Reiss is going to join us here. We'll give you a chance to talk to him here in just a second. Hey, Mike, how's it going, buddy? Thank you for the time today.
Hey,
can you find him?
Thanks.
All right, hang on 2 seconds here, because I have an issue hearing Mike. Sean apparently hear him because he can hear him over the phone, but I'm not hearing Mike. So this could have
John,
to do.
how's this sound?
There you are.
Now?
You're back.
Hey.
You're back. You're back. Love you.
Love it. John,
Thanks, man.
John, what I was saying was how much I enjoyed listening to Sean on that. What he was talking about his fandom.
He's right. He's right about that fandom. He totally, right, 100%. 100%.
How you doing, John?
I'm good. And Mike, I realize that we're all trying to get away from it a little bit, but, the show has to go on. And so I appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes here. And it's really kind of very simple. I did want to get your thoughts on Brady's induction, but there's really kind of 3 things that, to me, right now, we're kind of sitting with over the course of the next really 4 weeks until we start training camp 4 weeks from today, or at least the first live practice on July 24th. And number one is that, what the biggest need is today. Now, the biggest need may change a month from now. I certainly believe that the biggest need will change 2 months from now before we get the regular season started. So there's a lot of stuff that's still ahead of us here over the course of the next 8 weeks or so. But today, the biggest need in your eyes is what?
John, there's no question in my mind it's the offensive line. After watching the spring practices, I feel like, and I'll build off what Sean was saying on the call right before I came on.
Yeah.
You want to set it up for Drake May to be successful. To me, it all starts up front. I know for some people it's like, offensive line talk. It's not the most sexy, for lack of a better word. Like to talk about the skill positions and the weapons and all that stuff. But to me, like, what's the top 5 guys up front? And until they can sort that out, I would say, like, it's going to be, I don't want to say tough going, John, but, like, it would be in question.
Sure.
How's that, like, for a fair analysis?
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, you got to be able to protect whoever's calling it. And of course, then the other couple of things that I'm looking at it right now is number one, I think what would be considered a bad, or let's just say an underperforming area of this team. And I think I also know what might be a really good thing about this Patriot team going in, hence the 3 things overall. So going from the offensive line and the biggest need right at this moment, how do we segue into what is the worst thing about this New England Patriot team as of June the 26th?
So if we're going from offensive line to the best, John, or the worst?
To the worst. Is it still the same? Is the offensive line still one and the same, the biggest area of improvement there?
Oh, so that's a good question. I just think, so the hard part to me is, like, a big part of what they want to do offensively with Alex Van Pelt is build off the running game, and we just haven't seen it, John, right? So it's hard for me to judge. I guess you'd say, who's Drake going to throw to? What does that group look like? And do they have top, they have enough there.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah,
be the next place I'd go. Is that where would you go?
Well, I mean, to me, I would have to say, proven performers at wide receiver. We don't have them.
Yeah.
So that really, to me, sort of encapsulizes the main question marks that you have surrounding New England Patriots for this season. Number one, offensive line. Number two, receivers. And if you can't, protect the quarterback and the quarterback can't find anybody to throw the ball to, you're not scoring points. I don't care what kind of defense you have. And you've seen it as well as I have. There are people out there that consider the Patriots, to be pretty good defensively going into this year. And if they stay healthy, there's no reason to believe that they can't be every bit as good, if not better statistically than they were a year ago. But again, you're not going to win a lot of football games 10-7. Not in this day and age of the NFL. So you got to be able to put points on the board, and to me that's obviously the major concern that kind of hangs over our head. So we'll go from that now to the best thing about this New England team, and my clearly it's on the defensive side of the ball. But I also think it's their youth and their speed that go into making the Patriots better defensively than a lot of people, I believe, are currently giving them credit for. And I think this will be a big storyline over the course of the next month as we get closer to the opening of training camp. This will be a big storyline about the Patriots around the country that, these Patriots aren't bad on that side of the ball, and it will keep them in games. And I do expect that over-under total to rise a little bit.
So John, you're talking about the show goes on, this is the time that we usually try to get away, but I'm still dabbling in the football, and I turn on, NFL Live on ESPN the other day, and they have one of their analysts, Mina Kimes, in the top five defenses in the NFL.
Right.
And she put the Patriots fourth, so to your point, a lot of people view this defense as one of the best in the league, that being one example. I think that the two things I would just point out that I want to see if it transfers over is what is the impact of not having Bill Belichick and Steve Belichick on the coaching staff defensively?
Mm-hmm.
Does that lead to a slide back in any way, or was the setup such that Gerard and DeMarcus and that they were running it? You know what I mean? To a point that is seamless.
Yeah.
That's the first thought.
Yeah.
And then the second thought, John, I do have to say, seems like they might have a couple contractual things to just tidy up, to make sure that they're entering camp rolling on that side of the ball. I'm thinking of Devon Godchow, who tweeted, the other day about his contract and that he wants to get something done that's fair for both sides. I am curious about Matthew Judon. Is he really willing to play? In the final year of his contract, he might be, and if he is, great for the Patriots. But sometimes, what is said publicly is not necessarily what's happening behind the scenes negotiating wise, and I don't know what that looks like.
Right.
So just a couple thoughts, John, on the defense there.
What do you think happens with Judon?
My gut would tell. See, I think this is interesting to me. It's precedent type stuff with Elliot Wolf being the first year executive VP of player personnel. I would say if the easy solution is, Matthew, you're an important part of this team. We want you here. So let's set this up where if you're on the field for all 17 games, you get this amount more money this year. And if you achieve this production or we win this amount of games, you get this, you get more money is what I'm saying. You know what, John, what Bill Belichick did with Gronk in the past, remember that? Or even Brady, for that matter. I think that would be, to me, the middle ground between an extension that really gives them more money without even having to do anything, and the status quo of just playing out the deal as it is.
Right. Wow. Yeah. it's easy for us to say you got to throw the guy more money, but at the same time, when you consider, look, if there's an opportunity here to keep him happy, and because so many, I think, of the younger players look up to a guy like Matthew Judon, and he stayed engaged with these guys, last season after he was hurt. That was the one thing that really caught my attention, that he was still engaged with these guys on the sideline, in the locker room, even some at practice, and so I think, to me, that indicates that he likes it. Number one. Number two, he sees a role here for himself. And I think we all realize that this is a business, and after all, the business aspect of it is going to supersede everything else at some point, because we're all in it, you have to be in it to make money. This is your living. But, again, I think that maybe, I don't know if this is a shift fundamentally. Maybe it is a shift fundamentally, Mike, over what we've been used to. But I kind of I get the early feel here from listening to these guys talk. I get the early feel that they're more willing to do some things that maybe Bill Belichick was a little bit more reserved about. Do you get the same feeling at all?
I do. I get the same feeling. And I do not know this for certain because I haven't talked to Bill Belichick. But I think the extension for Ramondre is one example of it.
Yeah.
I think the extension for Christian Barmore is another one.
Yeah.
The idea of extending players with 1 year remaining in their contract. I'd have to look back at how many times that happened under Bill, and maybe it happened more times than I'm thinking off the top of my head. But I think that's just feeling-wise, John. It feels different to me.
Yeah, it does. It really does, and that's why I'm willing to. I'm going to, give them the benefit of the doubt here. I hope that they're able to, put this aside, because one of the things I think is a constant in almost any camp or any team or any sport really that you go to, you don't want controversy swirling at the start of a year. You don't want stories within the story. You want to be able to worry about wins and losses and who's playing and who's performing, and not worry about, well, he's not performing because he's not getting paid. That's the kind of stuff that nobody really wants to have to pay attention to, even though in the business of professional sports, and for that matter, in some college sports these days now, but this is the kind of stuff, though, that, you want to be able to push aside. And so I really believe this team will want to do something for Matthew Judon, so the focus is no longer on, well, this is your last year, or this might be your last game ever at Gillette, or this might be your last practice, or this might be your last whatever. I don't think they want it to be on that. I think they want to be able to say, look, you're going to play these games, you're going to get this money, and we'll talk about the offseason in the offseason. I hope that does happen.
Yeah. And I think a good point, and it's a great point, John, that you make, and I think we get so laser focused on the Patriots. I think it's also important to note, this is so NFL wide, right? Like the 49ers, they have Brandon Ayuk. What are they talking about there?
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns have Amari Cooper. What are they, this is hard. It is hard to keep everyone happy all the time. How do you get everyone going in the same direction? So I think that's a little bit of a challenge here for a first-year regime. And that's why they're in the big seats, right?
No question.
The Crafts think that they're capable of doing it, and now we watch it unfold.
What are you looking forward to, Mike, the most about the upcoming NFL season as a whole? I mean, if you can, set the Patriots aside for a moment, is there anything significant at all about the upcoming season that you're thinking like, wow, this could be a change, this could be a surprise? I mean, to me, I think partly I get the sense that the NFL's marketing arm, which, runs like a whirling dervish, right through, the globe these days, I think that's a significant step forward to make this more of a global game, and I'm sure we'll see some of that. The Patriots obviously are going to go overseas and do their thing again, in a country for the first time. But I'm just kind of curious what you're looking forward to that's different this year about pro football.
So you go in a lot of different directions on this one, John. But how about this one, the new kickoff?
Oh, right.
I was just doing some research yesterday and going back to listen to what some of the coaches and players said about it, and the way they talk about it, they have no idea how this is going to go. So I let's go with that. I'm excited.
That's good. That's good. I have to admit that it's unique. I kind of liked the XFL's rule, which is what they've instigated here. It stands to reason that you won't have as many running collisions as you might have had previously, where guys can get concussed or knocked out or what have you. But there's always been a part of me that has really loved. And I'll use a phrase here that could be a little un-PC, but I've always kind of liked the kamikaze aspect of special teams on the kickoff, because guys are willing to just sacrifice everything, to go make a play. And they might not get on the field, but a half a dozen times or so over an entire game, but it doesn't lessen their enthusiasm for playing the position. And that's what I've loved about special teams. And my hope is that this doesn't take away the enjoyment of really outstanding special teams play. I hope we haven't, soaked it in milquetoast. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Well, and I wonder on this if it actually leads to more excitement. To me, you get like the stadiums, and they're all amped up to go at the start of a game, and the first play is a kickoff, and inevitably it goes through the end zone, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay,
yeah,
1st and 10." So maybe now we have more. Dynamic highlight reel plays, and maybe, John, that's good for a Patriots team that we talked about the offense and what's that going to look like, and you can't win 10-7. Well, maybe they get something going in that third phase, in a new way the NFL looks that maybe allows them to even the playing field a little bit more.
Hope so. The rest of the AFC East, final one for you here. The rest of the AFC East, Buffalo, Miami, Jets. Who's improved? Who takes a step back, or do they all take a step up, and it's going to be up to the Patriots to keep up with those guys?
So I would say, to me, the Jets with an asterisk, have improved, because I guess I'm banking on Aaron Rodgers, John, coming back and being healthy.
Yep.
And they added some veteran players, and so, that defense was really good. So I'm thinking them. Buffalo lost a lot of players. It feels to me like they're a little bit of a I think they'll still be very good, but maybe have to find a different core in a way. So I think that's a little step back for them when I think about them. And yeah. Miami's an interesting one to me. I guess I'd say neutral to maybe a tick up. So to me, for the Patriots sort of resetting this whole thing, maybe it's not a bad year, to reset it, just because I think I don't see the rest of the division markedly improved.
Yeah.
Compared to past years. And John, when we started this, you had mentioned something about Brady. I just want to get it in.
Okay.
Like that event, first class.
Yeah.
All around.
Yeah.
Mike Tirico had said the greatest retirement event for an athlete. Who am I to argue with that sentiment?
Ever.
I thought it was awesome.
Ever. I listen, and I mentioned before you joined the show, I said, look, our Craft Sports and Entertainment Group, all right, and not just because I work for them, but our Craft Sports and Entertainment Group, when it comes to putting these things together, and you've been to all of them, when we do them out there on the plaza every year, when we brought in all the other, great athletes in the Patriots past into the Patriots Hall of Fame, but every year, we seem to do something a little bit different, and we do something that provides a little bit of a wow factor. And our performances this year that this entire crew put on are definitely what I called Academy Award and Emmy Award worthy. What we do. The show was magnificent. And the fact that you got, the pop stars, you got, Jay-Z making an appearance, you got Kenny Chesney making an appearance. I mean, my brush with greatness, behind the curtain that night was when Kenny Chesney reached over and hugged Peyton Manning and bumped me, before I had to go on the air and make an announcement. So I'm just like, hey, you bump me anytime, brother. You want to post me up? I'll post you up. That's great. But we do a really good job of drawing the stars here and knowing what our fans want, and that's what makes it so much fun to be a part of.
It was awesome. It was awesome, John. I love being on with you. I also want to thank Sean, who was a caller before me. I thought that was awesome. I think if I remembered right, and Elridge for hanging on.
Yep.
So,
thanks, buddy.
Well, I did my talking. So you're great. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you for taking a little time. Enjoy the rest of the time off, and I'll look forward to seeing you out at camp next month.
John, I'll do it anytime, and I just great stuff. and we're connected by the past, no doubt about it.
No question, brother. It's what we love doing. The one and only Mike Reiss, at Mike Reiss, REISS on Twitter. You probably know that, x.com, whatever you have it. Sean, you still with us, brother?
I'm still here.
Okay.
That was great.
Yeah, what'd
That
you
was
think?
awesome.
I mean,
Thanks,
there's really not a nicer guy, I don't think, in media than Mike Reiss. And when Matt and when Maureen and I were talking about what to really talk about today in this dead period, he's the one that brought up a suggestion. Hey, let's see if Mike's available, because Mike always brings something to the table. And as someone who covers the beat of the New England Patriots for a national, if not global, organization like ESPN. His time off is brief, and he suggested as much. He was thinking about, covering kickoffs yesterday, for God's sake. So, to me, that's why Mike's an invaluable resource to fans, and he's certainly one of the most followed that I can think of. But there's a reason for it, because you just don't know when he's going to surprise you with something, and it's going to be something like, "Wow, I didn't know that." So. Good on Mike Reiss for taking a few minutes and sharing what he loves to do with us. It's a remarkable
He's the
thing.
best.
Totally is.
I also agree totally with his take on the kickoff. It's going to be exciting, and I think that might be a reason why Jalen Reagor will make the team. He might be that X factor.
I think that's a really good call by you. I think there'll probably be I always get somewhat amused at looking at 53-man roster projections.
Yeah.
When you've got 90 on the roster and you're still a month away from starting camp. But I find it interesting because I like to see how guys are thinking. Doug Kyde of the Boston Herald, he had one not long ago, and I actually agreed with it. But I also thought, look, you got to leave yourself some wiggle room there, and because to be absolute in a 53-man roster when you're 2 months away before it actually happening, you don't know. First of all, we don't know what injuries are going to bring into it, and to me, that's everything right there, because you don't know who's going to get hurt. So I purposely believe that this team is going to emphasize the line play, as you and I talked a little bit earlier, and I think that's going to be a major factor for this team in consideration, finding somebody that can be reliable on that line. And I think you'll continue to see the Patriots likely, mix and match parts and movable parts on the offensive line and try to continue to develop versatility, because when you continue to develop versatility, you develop your depth, and that's what you have to have, because when you have a 53-man roster, depth is always an issue. Always an issue. He who has the most toys at the end wins. And that's what you can say about teams like Kansas City. They've had the most toys at the end. It's what you can say about the Patriots when the Patriots, were kicking butt every year. They had the most toys at the end. And you get that, number one, by identifying talent, sure, but number two, by keeping that talent healthy. That's the secret.
Right.
It's not rocket science.
It's not easy. So let's get Eldred on this conversation and see what he has to say.
Hang on just a second. I'm glad you did that. And I actually, you could come in and host any time. Eldred.
Of course.
Are you still there, brother? All right. Did I not get him on, Matt?
Hear you.
There he is.
Hey.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for hanging in, bud. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How about you? I'm just a little bit worried. Not worried, but just what's it?
What are you worried about?
Anxious.
Okay.
Anxious for camp to start, because I keep reading and hearing a lot of reports, especially from people that covers the Patriots, like this Gresh and Fiera, whatever his name is.
Fourier. Christian Fourier, the former tight end of the team?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
And Wichita. Okay. He predict 0 wins.
What? Well, that's
Zero.
that's ridiculous. That's somebody who's just slapping something up against the wall and hope that it sticks to get clicks.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, but he said he was at practice one Monday and nobody caught nothing. Everything was hitting the ground from either quarterback. And he said the defense is going to be fine, but it's lack of talent on the offense.
They're going to make that judgment over one practice out of how many? I mean, that's just that's not even.
That's him. But That's what he was saying.
Let me assure you. Let me assure you. Okay. I think I'd be willing to bet next month's mortgage. Okay. The Patriots will not go winless.
I don't think they go winless either. I don't. At least I hope not. But I don't think they will. But everything is like everybody pointing towards the new coaching staff and the regime since Bill gone and Steve the other Belichick. So everybody basing on that. And I still say the biggest need is, like y'all said, the offensive line and that number one receiver. I'm sorry, I just got to have one.
Yeah.
Just
I know. Maybe they've taken a step closer to that. I mean, it's possible, Eldred. It's possible, but we got to see it when these guys get back out there, next month and they start performing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And everything looks good when they're in shorts and t-shirts. It's the pad thing,
yeah, right?
That that's more worrying about. But once that go on, whatever, and I got to give it to Evan. He's sticking with his boy. I mean, I got like I told him, I got to believe it till I see it. Super Poly, $5 tip.
Okay.
I'm getting the Camaro clean. I'm sorry. So give my Camaro clean, and
I like
I'm
it.
take it home and wax it myself.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, you should be doing that. What year is the Camaro? What model is it?
213.
Okay.
Bought it brand new.
All right.
I'm the only one that had it. I want to put miles on it.
Nice.
So,
Nice. What kind of mileage you got on it in 2013?
I got 176,403.
Wow.
Yep.
Dang. Okay.
Out of 14 years. So I wasn't driving it that much. It was my weekend car and the women pickup car. Excuse me. Because I'm not married.
I had one of those back in the day. It was a what was it? It was a 1983. Yeah, 1983 Mustang convertible.
Convertible. Okay.
Yeah, Mustang convertible.
Yeah. That was nice. It was the Boss 42 in it.
Yeah. It was.
Okay. Yeah.
It was, as the saying goes, cherry.
Cherry.
Yeah, it was cherry.
Cherry. All right, it was great then. Okay.
It was awesome. It was sweet. It was
sir.
a cherry on a Sunday, man. It was awesome. So, but
yeah.
I get it. I understand. Good for you. I'm glad you're able to do something like that at your advanced age, especially.
Yes, sir. Let's see. Next Tuesday, I'll be 63.
Come on.
I ain't ashamed to see it.
Happy birthday.
I'll be 63. Come. Thank you. Next Tuesday. Thank you. Lord, let me see it.
Happy birthday.
I appreciate it.
Oh man.
Yes.
You got a lot of fire in you for 63 though, brother.
Oh man, I've been doing that especially the last 20 years with my Patriots, but the last 4 years had to what's that? Cheek in a little bit, but I still talk noise. Still talking noise,
Yeah.
And Evan, like I said about Evan and May,
mm-hmm.
I'm hoping he does what Evan want him to do. I hope he does, but that comparison might maybe catch on like C.J. Stroud did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna bust his bubble, but Stroud was a better accomplished passer than what May was.
Mm-hmm.
May is.
Mm-hmm.
And Stroud can play from the pocket, and he can run. He just chooses to play from the pocket. He's more of a pocket, but he can throw. Run and throw, and he's accurate. So, that's, May. If May come out like Allen, better than whatever, and we get it, like I told Evan, I'll be the first to apologize. Okay, dog, you proved me wrong. You're right. I'm wrong.
Well, that's kind of why, I'm glad when we discussed Drake May, I'm kind of glad that's, why you call and you chime in, because obviously you saw him play, at North Carolina, and so many people have already likened his style of play to Josh Allen's, but not quite maybe at the athletic level of Allen. He's not as big or powerful maybe, but they kind of like his style to that. And I'm just kind of curious to, what you thought about that style, number one, and number two, can he be effective doing that, especially as a rookie in the NFL?
I love that style of play. I like a quarterback like that, But my problem is, like I said, I watched him for 2 years here.
Mm-hmm.
And no, sir. I don't see that. I see the athlete, I see the running, and I see the throwing, but it's like I said, he's streaky. He's not really that accurate, deep downfield, and the gimmies that's there, he'll try to move to make a pay. When he gets drop at the top of his drop, instead of the play that's there, he's going to scramble and make something else. I've seen that too many years in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And everybody said the same. He reminded me of Mitch Trubisky when he came out of North Carolina.
Yeah.
That's what he reminded me of.
Okay.
You know,
Trubisky.
Mitch, he's shorter. He's 6'2", Dre 6'4", but Mitch was a scrambler too.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing?
Yep. Okay.
Chicago took him over. I think it was first or second that year, and he just couldn't seem to Babbage. You know.
Correct.
But I'm wishing the guy a lot. I'm wishing him a lot. So like I told Evan, his front door to my front door is 15 minutes. I can go down 485, turn right, Huntersville, I'm there.
So why don't you?
Now they did a good party for him.
Yeah.
Doing draft and everything. So
that's cool.
City did too. So.
All right, that's
cool.
cool.
So, but like I said before, I got to see it. I got to see it.
Okay.
And if I see it, like everybody, there's North Carolina up here. There's a North Carolina alumni and the Panthers fan.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want him. They didn't want to draft him. And they got Bryce Young. They're not happy with Bryce Young.
Right.
And they didn't want to draft him.
Right.
So like I said, we all seen him.
Right.
I'm not bashing the guy. I'm just going by eye test.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm going about. Eye test.
All right.
Not what nobody told me. Eye test.
So you and I have probably discussed this already, but I'm just wondering, refresh my memory here. If he proves once camp gets started, if he proves that he, is playing better than everybody else, should he be the starter?
Start him.
Okay.
Start him. If you've proven that, start him. I'd rather take my lumps right now with him and take the gloves off. Don't do them like they did Jones.
Yep.
If you make a mistake, he just make a mistake, and hopefully he learn from it. I hope when he stood there with Brady, he took everything in.
Mm-hmm.
So Brady said it ain't the physical, it's between the ears. It's between the ears.
Yeah.
I
would agree with that.
So I hope he took that in.
Right.
Yes, sir. But other than that, like I said, I'm not rooting against him. I'm just a non-believer.
Well, I don't think there's, but I don't think that you're. I don't even think that you're non-believer. You're kind of like you're from the state of Missouri. You got to show me, kind of like what Missourians say, and I'm very much like that with you. I mean, it's great. Talk is wonderful, but talk is cheap. If you really got it, you got to show it, and that's kind of what I'm waiting on. At least for this roster and this football team right now, is if you got it, let's show it. If you don't have it, you won't show it. It's pretty simple, and let's move on. You have to look at it almost from an analytical, from a business-like standard.
Yeah, you have to. The business-like, I like what the front office did by keeping our core guys. They recognized them and they kept them. They paid them, but I think. My boy is having second thoughts, not John, but Uche.
Yep.
Because he took less and he seen everybody else getting paid, and that would make me kind of mad too.
Mm-hmm.
But you took the contract, so if you took the contract, like I said before, you got to honor your contract. You got to play to your contract.
True.
And that's what you should do.
Yep. True. Yep, that's true. All right, so let's do the three things with you, Eldred, before we lose sight of that. Number one, what's the worst thing about this team right now?
The worst thing?
Yeah.
Offensive line and not knowing the coaching.
All right, well, that's two things. What's worst?
Well, okay, one thing. Okay, worst, offensive line.
Okay. So I think that's pretty unanimous. I would think that's unanimous. I mean, Sean said that, Mike has said that, I've said that, Evan said that. I'm sure there are a lot of other, people, that would be listening that would, would have a different opinion. But it's, hey, you got to. It's certainly up there in the top two with this team right now.
Yep. And my other worst thing is, we should have got A.D. Mitchell. I like Polk out of Washington, but Mitchell was better.
Yeah.
And that's your outside threat.
Why do you think they didn't?
Why do you think? I don't understand either. He got the size, he got the speed. He's in that range where they like drafting him at, and I can't understand why. And he's a better player. Polk's okay, but Doomsday and I think the other guy was named Wilson. They was the other receivers that, like I said, Penix had a ball with. Polk was okay too, but Doomsday was the man, and the other guy was there. I think Polk moved the change a little bit. He wasn't that dynamic, but he could catch it. He got good catch radius.
Yeah.
He ain't got that speed like the rest of them.
Right.
got the same players already on the team. You need somebody outside. I'm sorry, sir. I'm old school. You
I
don't
know.
need somebody to say, hey,
I know.
you got to put 2 on me or 3 to cover me, and then everybody else get open.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And then if you put 2 on me, you still ain't going to cover me. And I think that's Mitchell.
Okay.
Worthy got the speed, but I think that was Mitchell.
Oh, I agree with you.
I saw
Mitchell,
Texas too.
of the 2 Texas receivers, Mitchell had the better hands.
Yes, sir.
Better
Exactly. The better. Because I watched that game too.
Yeah.
You know, and I watched whatever.
Right.
But I'm going to take my tell Evan, I'm going to take my victory lap too when Penix upseat Cousins, when he upseat him. I'm going to take my victory lap also.
Okay. And listen, I'm kind of there with you on that one. And then what's the best thing about this team right now?
The best thing?
Yeah.
I think the way everybody's buying in right now. You know, I think that unity they're showing so far. And if they play with that, you know, they might, like I said, more than a 6-win team. But that schedule is brutal.
It is. It is. It's a good point.
For a 4-win team, 4-win team. I don't see how they gave them that hard of a darn schedule.
Well,
I can't see that.
I understand that, and I thought it was a little bit, of a shifty move too. But there's no science to it here. They're just following the rotation. It just so happens this was the year that the AFC East gets the the NFC West, and some of the and of course that's just the way it works.
Yes, sir. But like I said, I'm looking forward to the season. Like I said, I got my banner out. I got my jersey on the other day, so I'm gonna wear it to work tomorrow because I got to go to work tomorrow.
Nice.
With my little Patriots hat.
With your Patriots hat.
And I'm just gonna ride down and say, oh, "Yep." And they point, you ain't like that. What we said when Tom leaves, that was it. And I said, "Yep, I guess you was right."
Did you watch the ceremony last month or earlier this month?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and what'd you think?
Almost cheered up when Randy cheered up.
Right. Right.
Because he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave here.
No.
It's just they phased him out, and he wanted that record. He wanted Jerry Rice's record.
Well, but you have to admit it. Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. But you have to admit, Randy, there were some self-inflicted wounds there.
Yeah, it got self-inflicted when they started cutting him out, and he saw it. Same thing with Welker when they started cutting Welker out.
Okay, maybe so, but at the same time, when you're under contract and the team tells you got to do this, yeah, I mean, you still got to do what you're told.
Yeah, you still got to do it. I understand that, but like I said, he's a Hall of Famer, and he's a diva, true enough.
Yes.
And like I said, I'm one of the biggest Randy Moss fans. But like I said, I met him years ago when he was young, and Minnesota drafted him. And him and Culpepper. Mm-hmm. And they came. I was dating a girl in West Virginia. He came home one day, and they had a little cookout, and I was there with him. And I'm like, man, I couldn't believe this. Couldn't believe it when I saw both of them come out there. Mm-hmm. But that was back then. So
yeah,
like I said, still a fan.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Still a fan, and they're still one of the best wide receivers in Patriots. I know he's not a real true Patriot, homegrown, whatever he was traded or whatever. But they're still one of the best wide receivers the Patriots ever had.
Well, yeah,
and
yeah.
He'll still go down there.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, he's probably one of the best receivers to have ever played the game. Period. And he was a bit, and I'll be, somewhat politically correct when I say this. He was a bit mercurial. He's a little bit, different. He was a little bit aloof. He's a little bit of a lot of things. I don't think he was a complete buy-in to what the Patriots were doing at the time. But, of course, I mean, he was also a part of a team that, came within a hair, as we all know, of being one of the most memorable sports teams of all time when they went, 16-0 in the regular season. So, and,
exactly.
And couldn't win at all, which is, wow, it's one of the biggest shocks I think that I've had in my professional career of covering sports, that the Patriots didn't win the Super Bowl.
Oh, me too. That was one of the quietest Super Bowl parties I had at my house.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
Especially when Brady brought him back.
I'll bet. I know.
I'm like, okay, we got him now. We got him. And then that catch and then what you call over HOF.
Yep.
I just shook my head.
Yeah.
Like, darn, that's it.
Yeah.
We done.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
Eldred, it's always good to talk to you, brother. You be safe out on the road over the next month, and then when we do this again, we'll talk again, and we'll catch up on where things are.
All right, thank you, sir. I was good talking to you, Mr. Legend.
You too,
you
buddy.
do. Everybody have a good one.
Thanks.
All right.
You got it. the one and only Eldred in North Carolina. Sean, are you still there?
I'm still here. I'm still hanging on.
Okay. I saw you were hanging on, so I figured you were probably listening. So that's why I don't like disconnecting people that like to hang on. What did you have to think about Eldred's thoughts? Agree or disagree? What do you think?
I get it, and I agree to the most part. Especially everyone agrees about the offensive line, and that's obvious. I do agree that they do need a number one receiver, but you don't need it right now. They're not where they're gonna be, so we could get that next season. I'm not in a rush.
Yeah, that's a developing story, and God love Eldred. He's just a stickler for that, and he really likes to stick to definition of terms and of roles. And I don't, Eldred's not the kind of guy that likes versatility in that regard. That hey, if you got a wide receiver, you got this is your one, this is your two, and honestly, that is an old school way of looking at it. But the game has changed a little bit, and so I have to get used to that. We all have to get used to that. And the one thing that I think that I'm looking forward to the most about getting the start of next month is how the coaching staff reacts to this. Once they see these guys participate out on the field, okay, so then who moves in to get the reps? Who works with whom after practice is over to get the extra reps on the sideline, that kind of thing. These are the things that I'm really looking forward to watching, to see the chemistry start to build and who performs, because the players who are going to play are the ones that are going to stand out in practice. It's an old trite cliche, but, hey, practice makes perfect, and those that stand out of practice have the best chance of standing out in games. And so I want to see who stands out of practice, and that's why I think that the training camp practice this year should be as good as they've ever been in some time. I'm not sure that I expect the crowds to be quite as great, because frankly, when the Patriots are really good, we get 10, 12, 15,000 people or more at training camp, because the Patriots are good and everybody wants to be a part of a winner. But frankly, I think the competition this year at training camp will be as good as maybe we've ever seen it, just because so many things are up in the air and so much is new, and there's a new coaching staff in place and a new philosophy in place and new coaches making calls in place and new coaches making decisions about who's going to play this place and who's going to be. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that nobody really knows until we actually see it happen next month, and that's when you want to be out there seeing this happen.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see all the new stuff, see what comes together. We nobody knows. We're all making our predictions and prognosticating is what I was going to say.
Right.
But
yeah.
Nobody really knows. And with I get it with Eldred with the number one receiver. I mean, it to me it's more about a number one option. Like, it doesn't have to be Justin Jefferson. When you look at the Chiefs, it's not even a wide receiver. It's Kelsey. You need one player that other teams are going to have to work around. Other teams are going to have to spend long nights trying to figure out how to stop. And right now we don't see that with the Patriots. And what I'm saying is I don't think I care that they don't have that in 2024. I want it to be there in 2025, 2026. I want it to be there when this team is really ready to go and ready to compete.
Yep, that's the way it is. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm right there with you on that one. What else you got, Sean? You've been kind enough to hang on most of the show here, so I'm going to give you the floor. What else you need to talk about?
Well, the other things I guess that I want to talk about with the Patriots is just the appreciation for Brady. And I think Miss Robin is right. It's over, and you can live in the glory years. That Bruce Springsteen song is really, if you listen to it carefully, is really about a warning. Like, don't be like this.
Yep.
Right. Don't live in 20 years ago. You got to think about the future. You got to plan for it. So we've turned the page. Brady is now retired. His number's retired. He's in the Patriots Hall of Fame, which, by the way, if anyone is listening and hasn't been to the Patriots Hall of Fame, it's a must go. I've been to Canton. I've been to Cooperstown. I've been to tons of Hall of Fames. I've been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Me
Nothing
too.
Beats.
That's also good. I like that spot.
It's great. I love the one in Seattle, which is Mopop. I love these interactive museums, but my favorite is the Patriots Hall of Fame. It's so worth it. If you're you're traveling to a New England stop off in Foxborough, you can, what I did is I didn't have a car, so I took a train to Sharon, and then I Ubered from there on an off day because the special trains don't run when it's not game day.
Right.
And that wasn't too expensive. It was like $16 for an Uber, and it was really worthwhile. So
right.
yeah, try and check that out. But yeah, this is our new. We're starting over. This is the new Patriots. We're on to the next dynasty, and we're not there yet. This is the beginning. This is where you build up that frustration. You build up that anticipation to try and see where it's going to go.
Yep. We need to, we'll try to put forth a little positive energy here, I think, over the course of the next few weeks and look to it's a different era. And so that's why, most of all, I was glad that the Brady thing took place when it did, because it allows us to reset. And that's what this organization, it's what this team really needs. It needed a big reset. It needed to acknowledge its past. It needed to acknowledge some of this internal strife that was there between coach and players and others. There were a lot of things we needed to acknowledge, and a lot of things we needed to, hug it out over, so to speak. And I think we've done that. But now this should all be about, okay, that's in the past. And, we even brought up, Evan and I earlier in the program today, we're talking about, what's going to happen when Bill decides, to finally hang it up. And I don't think he's hung it up. I think Bill coaches next year. Not this year, obviously, but I think he does. And it would not shock me in the least bit to see him in Dallas with the Cowboys, because I'm already hearing and already seeing, and maybe you've read some of the same stuff where, Mike McCarthy is upset over, Jerry Jones's meddling. And I'm like, okay, who wouldn't be if you were in his position? But he's already operating under the last year of a contract, and so it's almost like you see this coming. It's like the freight train. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a train that's getting ready to run you over when it gets to you. It's coming, and I think that would be a situation for Bill to come in and say, "Let me see if I can turn some magic around in a year or two."
But it'd be fun to see him do what Parcells did as well. He'd go to Dallas in the end after being with the Giants, So that's interesting. But I also think it'd be great if he went to the Giants, because that would be somewhere where he really wants to go. That would be
no question. I mean, he would really be bringing his career kind of full circle in that regard, right?
Yeah. That would be
somewhat selfishly. I'd like to see him do it in Dallas. That's all.
Right.
Because that was the team that I grew up with, and Jerry Jones, he lightning struck, for him when, he took the team over, bought the team, and unceremoniously canned Tom Landry back in the 80s, and then he brought in Jimmy Johnson and even, Barry Flippin Switzer and won 3 Super Bowls back in the early 90s, and everybody thought, well, Jones has got the magic touch, when really he didn't have anything to do with that. It was all about, the one trade that was actually made that, brought them the triplets, Aikman and Irvin and Emmitt Smith, right? So that was it, the Herschel Walker deal, which will go down in history as one of the great, heists in professional sports history, in my regard. It brought them 3 Super Bowls.
For Super Bowl 60, the Cowboys versus the Patriots.
Super Bowl 60. Wow, are we that close to that now?
We are. This one is 58.
This one's going to be 58?
Holy
crap. Yeah. That blows me away. It blows me away. I'm hoping to be able to make it to the Super Bowl C note, but I don't think I'll make it. I'm not sure about that one.
I don't know if I will. That's
Super Bowl C. I know. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. Hey, Sean, great to visit with you today, man. Thank you so much for hanging in. It's always good to talk to you. I always appreciate the fact that, guys like you and Eldred and so many others who listen to the show take the time to call in and share your views, because you need to know, and I know Fred has said this before, and Paul and Deuce and Evan and everybody that's a part of, PU, but the fact that you guys take the time to share your 2 cents worth means a lot to us, because this is how we're able to develop our own opinions. If you're not in tune with what your audience is thinking, then you're just, as I used to say back in the day, you're just whistling Dixie. You don't really know what you're doing. So, and that's kind of what we're going with here. This helps us. If I know what you're thinking, it helps me, all right, decide, all right, this is where we need to go with the direction of the show, or these are the questions we need to ask today, because this, these people are into it and they're taking their time to call in and share that. So, and I'm saying this for everybody's benefit who's listening to the show, whether you're live today or you're listening to it on the pod. And I'm so happy that we're able to do, have the pod for everybody, because I know that sometimes a live show just isn't convenient to listen to. And when I do pod listening, it's when I'm commuting in my car, because I've got the dedicated time. I've got basically an hour commute, either way to work back and forth where I live, and so that's a good time to do that, because honestly, it's hard to stomach sports radio some days. So there's too much negativity, and I don't listen to sports radio necessarily for negativity all the time. I get it; it's a part of it when you're going to be critical, because sometimes criticism is warranted. But at the same time, I like to kind of know some things about really what's going on and what would you do to fix things. And we sometimes tend to hammer on the negativity, certainly here in New England quite a little bit. So that's why it's always great to hear what, guys like you are thinking about. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Go Patriots.
Go Patriots. Talk to you soon. Sean in Vancouver. Summer's here, as we know, which means it's time to turn off that alarm and sleep in. Thanks to Bob's Discount Furniture. Save big by bundling Bob's Bobopedic mattresses with your choice of fantastic adjustable bases full of fun features like charging ports, under-bed lighting, and Bluetooth speakers. So stop in, sleep better with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. I promised that I would run over the initial schedule in case you haven't seen it. It is listed here on the website, so hopefully you just go to the training camp thing and you'll find it. But the first practice is literally 4 weeks from today, Wednesday, July 24th. Gates will open at 10 o'clock, and the practice will start at 11 a.m. So it's a little later in the morning than it normally began. It used to be like an earlier start at 9, but again, this is a new regime. It's a new coaching staff, so they're going to do things a little bit differently. Gates open at 10. It's free to the public. Practice starts at 11. That's the first of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 practices that are on the schedule for training camp that will be open free to the public. There will be some practice dates where the public will not, where the practice will not be open to the public. The first one comes up on that first weekend on July 27th, and then the next week on July 31st, no public practice. And then I believe there will be one. The very last practice is Tuesday, August 13th, and that will be a joint practice with the Eagles. So you get a chance to come in and see the Patriots knock heads with another team before they play the Eagles. I think that's on the 15th. Couple of days later after that. Usually they'll do that the week of the second preseason game here. So anyway, training camp has been decided. There's plenty of opportunities to get out, and hopefully you get a chance to come out and see some of the practices. And like Sean said, listen, you got to take the time if you're going to come in from out of town. You're going to come in from out of the New England area, or you're living outside the New England area and you're thinking about coming in, for training camp practice. Take the time to go into the Patriots Hall of Fame, because the stuff from Brady's induction will all be in there. They got it. There's some great interactive stuff for the kids in there. Usually when I bring my sports broadcasting students in the summertime, and they will make an appearance on our shows again, next month as well. And they always come in, with fire and brimstone and prepared and ready to go. We always take them to the Hall of Fame as well, because there's so much history in there. So you got to do yourself a favor and give yourself a little bit of time to be able to do that. And of course, there's so much that you can do in and around Patriots Place as well, with the restaurants and the shops and things like that. It's pretty good vacation central. And if I was coming in from out of state, to be able to take in a practice or maybe take in one of the games there, obviously the 8th and the 15th of August are the two preseason games, at Gillette coming up very soon. You got to take it all in. I guess I could probably go to work for the Chamber of Commerce with that one. But listen, this is going to be, gosh, I got to think of the numbers here overall. This is camp number 64 for the New England Patriots. 64 training camps for the Patriots. There are many of you who will go back a number of years like I do, since this will be my 32nd year with the Patriots. So I've been around. I've been fortunate enough to be around for half of the Patriots' total existence. And I covered the Patriots at training camp before I even worked, for the Patriots, beginning in the early 1990s. But it's camp number 64. You remember that they used to hold it at Bryant College, now Bryant University in Smithfield, Rhode Island, before the Patriots built Gillette Stadium, and then of course they built the practice field and the camp facilities out adjacent to the stadium. If you've never been to the stadium, then it's in behind the what's the best way to describe it? It's really in behind sort of the behind the south part of the stadium, the south and the west part of the stadium. Where the practice fields are located. And the Revolution have since moved their soccer training facility out to a different location here on the stadium grounds. So really those two fields belong to the Patriots now. And they've got the indoor field house there, which the Revs also still use, but, in inclement weather and when they prepare for either really cold temps or really hot temps, the Patriots will move in, indoor to the field house facility that they have there so they can, try to do that. But this is all New England's, this is all the Patriots stuff. And so when they moved it here, and they've got, the hotels, at Patriot Place, they've got a Renaissance there. They've got a Hilton Garden Inn that's located there if you've never been there to see it. They utilize all of these facilities here as a part of, training camp. It's all it kind of figures into it in some form or fashion to keep everybody up close so they can get to training and they can get in for their for the knee taping and the ankle taping and the cold tubs and the medical needs and the food services and all that kind of stuff. All of this is transpired here. All of it transpires right here within the Patriots grounds, whereas they used to take it and move it all off to college campus, which still a lot of professional football teams do. There's still a lot that will move away and take it away off-site, but it's become more of an on-site thing since teams started building their own stadiums and their own facilities. So I believe overall this is the 22nd year that the Patriots will have training camp here at Gillette Stadium on the grounds here. So 22 years for that, 64 years of training camp overall. And it's a new time. It's a new era. You finally put the past off to the side, and you've honored it. You've given it a big hug and a squeeze, and hopefully everything's better, and now you got to move on. And that's really where I kind of see the New England Patriots as a football organization. This is where they're hanging right now. We're in that little netherworld of, okay, let's take that bold, big first step, and are we going to fall off the cliff, or is somebody going to catch us? And are we going to be able to then take the next step after that? And that's really kind of where we are with this team. Last year was a big disappointment for everybody. That's why so many changes were made. Huge disappointment to the Crafts. I understand that. We get that. And I think, largely as fans, we'd all be disappointed if they weren't disappointed. It matters as much to them as it does to anybody else. But, it's cliche, but, hey, we know Rome wasn't built in a day. It's been a slow process since Tom Brady played here and left here. And, we thought it might happen a little bit more quickly. We thought that we might, have lightning strike quickly, whether it was, through the COVID years, or whether it was through, bringing in, and Cam Newton being quarterback here, or, Mac Jones when he was drafted. And we all know that, his first year was, a good year, but then it went downhill thereafter. And I'm not here to really lay it at anybody's feet, the fault as to why he's not here any longer. It just happened. And I think that all goes into the bigger picture as to why there was a changeover made here ultimately. And so now we have to give the newer regime, and we have to give Gerard Mayo, who is highly thought of as a player and as a coach, in working under and working for and playing for Bill Belichick, highly thought of by everybody here at Gillette Stadium, including the Crafts. That's why they signed him the way they did a year ago and then charged him with moving forward. Now let's see what he can do. Let's see if that confidence is justified. And I'm willing to give – I mean, if the Patriots fall flat on their face this year and go 4-13 again, does that mean he's out as coach? No, it doesn't. There are going to be certain things. This is a year where wins and losses are not – you're going to be a part of the grade, but it's not going to be a part of the full picture. How do they improve on certain aspects of the team? How do coaches relate to players? How do players perform? Are they able to stay healthy? And if they stay healthy, are they able to develop? I want to see development. And I think as fans, what we should rightfully see is development. That's why I'm so anxious to see training camp start in 4 weeks. I'm really curious. This will be one of the most anticipated training camps in my own personal eyes. You know, it's the forwards kind of like, oh, hey, it's Brady again, and Gronk, and you know, and everybody, and all the superstars. That's a lot of fun. Kid you not, it's a lot of fun. But at the same time now, it can be fun for different reasons. It can be fun because you might actually be on the very beginning of something that could be special again. And we're all in this sport to win. The Patriots players, the Patriots management, the Patriots fans, the Patriots media, they're all in this to win. Don't kid yourselves. It's all about winning and competing and comparing yourself to your rivals, to the Jets, to the Bills, to the Dolphins, especially within the AFC East. In the last few years, we know they've gone by New England, or at least everybody but the Jets. And that's not throwing shade at the Jets. It's the truth. But if they have a healthy Aaron Rodgers this year, do they take that step forward? And are the Patriots left in the lurch? See, these are all stories within the story that we're going to begin looking at really closely over the course of the next few weeks. I give the last word today to Aiden in California, who sent in this email. He says, John, I miss you so. Listening to these curmudgeons on the local radio shows makes me put my head through a wall. But with that said, the biggest need is the left tackle. Our receivers are not bad, but the protection can hinder his growth. I'd rather have Drake develop with these wide receivers and add a stud next year. But I'm excited with all the competition that will come at camp and won't listen to these experts with agendas. Aiden, I think that's why I'm going to give you the last word on that today, because I think you're spot on. Ignore the noise. Watch practice for yourself. If you're lucky enough to come out here to practice and watch it for yourself, watch what they do in the position groupings, okay? And then when they get on the field for 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 scrimmaging, who stands out? Okay? Who shows out? Who makes the tough catch? Who's not afraid to go over the middle, when he could get popped? Does Drake May make those throws? Does Jacoby Brissett make those throws? Who shows the leadership value? And on defense, who's getting into the backfield? Okay? Who's covering? Who's getting side to side? The guys that are making plays, the guys that are catching the attention of the coaching staff. You can see that for yourself. A lot of this stuff you'll get a chance to see here on the website. When the preseason opens up, there are 3 games that will have extra added importance, and I know that, there's nothing worse than preseason football. Because, but because it's not real football. Never has been and hasn't been for a number of years. But this year, I'm anxious to see the games. Why? Because you get a new quarterback. You've got development on the offensive line. You've got new receivers. You want to see who can play. And I don't know how long they'll be in games. I would assume that everybody's going to get a chance to play because there are jobs to be won, people. So I don't think this will necessarily be a typical preseason. Let's get on with it. And you know what? We're eventually going to move. This opens up a whole new can of worms here, but we are eventually moving to an 18-game regular season, which means only a 2-game preseason. We're moving in that direction. I know that some people are for that. I know some people are against that. Players are largely, I think, against that, but we are moving in that direction. It's going to happen. And so, we're at 3 now. It's eventually going to be to 2 because we all like meaningful football, and that's what we're looking for, and that's what we're working toward. But this preseason may have more meaning than any preseason the Patriots have had in a long time. And I'll leave with that. Bridgestone, the official tire of the New England Patriots, is proud to partner with Sullivan Tire, New England's headquarters for quality Bridgestone tires. Visit sullivantire.com to find a location near you. And, of course, our program is brought to you by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. Our thanks to Mike Reiss for stepping in and joining us, Evan Lazar for joining us as he always does, to the Marine, Matt Morrell. Thank you, Matt. For putting this together, and getting the makeshift studio ready to roll here. Are we in the brand new studio for next month at all?
Yes, we will be.
Ha! Awesome. All right. And I mentioned at the top of the show, I'll mention it here at the end of the show. 2 playbooks in the month of July. Woohoo! July 24th, on the opening day of public viewing for Patriots training camp. The playbook will be back in action, and we'll also have another show on July 31st. Same Pat's time, same Pat's channel. I think we're doing noon starts for those shows. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 12 noon on the 24th and 31st in time for training camp. Enjoy the downtime if you have it. We'll see you next month.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.